All right, good morning, everyone. Today is Wednesday, September 28th. This is a meeting of the Property Committee of the School Board. And I'm going to just briefly share the agenda here, which is available on Board Docs. And then I'm going to actually stop share and bring up a slide set that Mr. Thorne will be using for today's agenda. And then obviously at the end of the meeting, if we have anybody joining us, we're open to questions. And from board members, obviously, ask us any questions at any time. And then we'll make sure that you have the slides sent to you following the meeting in case there are any questions or follow-up. So let me stop share for just a minute. And I'll bring up the slides. So, alrighty. Share again. All right, so Mr. Thorne, they're all yours.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and thanks again for joining our Property Committee Wednesday, September 28th, 2002. As usual, we'll work from our agenda. So I'll start with the first agenda item, unless anybody has any questions before we get started. Okay, very good, very good. Okay, first agenda item is the Enfield athletic field project. So it's going well. The scheduled date for completion is the end of October with some punch list items through November. But overall, still going well. The bathroom facility, as you can see as you drive by, is being constructed. That's going a little slow, but it is on target. There's no issues there. They've been doing a lot of the site work. If you wanted to go to the next slide, as you can see there, they put the curbing in, new inlets, the subsurface groundwork is done. In fact, this week they're starting the stone and blacktop of all the new driveways, parking lot areas. So they also did the curb as we were required along Church Road. We were required to put the inlets and the curbing in along Church Road there. So as you can see, that's been completed. Here we have some of the dugout structures, the bleacher areas, the retaining walls in between the two softball fields there. That's all underway. And again, the next slide is the bathroom facility. That's going well. It looks nice. Where you see the white Tyvek, that'll be stone. It'll be a stone facade right there, similar to the new school. So the school colors, we tried to mimic the gray and the blue roof there. So again, all going well. One addition, that's topsoil added to the subsurface there. They'll be putting the sod right on top of that topsoil. This slide is just an example of a guardrail we're going to install. So as the field started getting constructed, the one outfield of the softball field closest to Church Road, there's a walking path there. So it's right along there in the dirt, as you see there in between the curb and the fence. So it was really close to Church Road. So for an added safety feature, we recommended that we put in a guardrail structure like that. So it's similar that you would see in a park or something, the wooden aspect of it with the steel posts in the ground. And the next slide, Dr. Yannicone shows basically where it's going to go. That little blue dotted line you see there, that's where the extent of the guardrail will be. Now keep going down, that's Paper Mill. You want to go to Church Road. Right there, yep. So again, that's where that walking path, you can see the outfield of the softball field. Right behind it is the blacktop walking path. So it was really close to the road surface. So that's where we're going to add the additional safety protection of this guardrail. So again, all the fields are going in. They should be blacktopping starting this week, the sod within the next 3 weeks. So we're going to keep the field closed throughout the winter and open it up in the springtime so the sod has a chance to root and nobody's in there tearing it up or anything. So we'll post field closed signs and keep the whole site closed down throughout the winter. But it's going well. It's looking good. Any questions with that? Okay. All right. Our next agenda item is the Interstate, our outsourced custodial company. Last year, they struggled with staffing. It was, due to COVID and just a limited amount of staffing. So if you recall last year, the board did approve to raise their hourly rate to try and hire more employees. So they did, and it was a successful end of the year, as well as the summer. The cleaning program they did this year was outstanding. They really made the buildings look tremendous for the start of school. They did exceptional work at the middle school with the tile flooring and everything in classrooms and hallway. So they really did a nice job. So we were evaluating their actual contract with the amount of employees they have. So what we discovered was there are industry standards for the amount of square footage that a custodian cleans per hour. And at the middle school and the high school, we're actually above the industry standards. So this is a document they sent over. This is their proposal to add 1 full-time employee at the middle school and 1.25 employees at the high school. This would bring us to that industry standard. If you look at the middle school, the current cleanable square footage, they're cleaning 4,471 square feet per hour, whereas the industry standard is 3,500 square feet per hour. So they're proposing to add 1 full-time employee there, and the cost would be the $3,831 per month at the middle school. Same with the high school, the 1.25 employees, that would bring them into the industry standard of that 38 to 4,000 square foot per hour cleaning. As you can see, they're way above it now. So if we get concerns from staff, it has been mostly high school and middle school. So we're recommending that we move ahead with this to bring on the additional employees. This addendum would be an additional $103,000 to our current contract per year. Ms. Green and I actually brought in other contractors to look at the RFP process, and they looked at the numbers and they said that they would get nowhere near it. The amount of money they're paying employees and overhead with the current climate, the conditions of the cleaning industry, they said they couldn't touch it. So we feel that bringing on these extra employees is still more cost effective than going out for a full RFP. So we did speak with Interstate, Ms. Green and I, about the level of service we expect and how the building should be cleaned. We actually gave them till December to make sure that there's no concerns, staff concerns. The buildings are maintaining a level of cleanliness that we deserve. So at this point, we are recommending that we go ahead with this addendum to our current contract.
Just for the group's sake, real quick, we did anticipate, we've been in discussions with Interstate, and Mr. Thorne, Dr. Yannicone and I have been discussing this since last year. During budget last year, we did anticipate the possibility of needing additional staff at these 2 locations, and we adjusted for the contract amount in the budget in possible anticipation that we might need to increase. So this money is budgeted for in Mr. Thorne's budget. So this would not be an additional money that we would have to find within the budget. We kind of padded the contract a little bit, hoping that we wouldn't need it, but in the anticipation that we did, that we would be okay on budget.
Thanks, Ms. Green. And nonetheless, for Mr. Needleman and Mrs. Lipinski, we would bring a motion forward to the board on October 18th, our next board meeting, asking the board to authorize the change to the contract because of the amount of the change, being in excess of that minimum of 21,000. So you would see this for a board vote at our next meeting if you're okay with bringing it out of committee and to the full board on the 18th.
Can I offer a comment / question, I guess? And Ms. Green, your clarification on the budget actually took the answer one of my questions. So thank you for stealing my thunder. The $100,000 addition is a big number, but it sounds to me like it's something that we need, right? I mean, we can't go without the buildings being cleaned.
Yeah, I would say so. Again, they do struggle with cleaning those two facilities specifically. At the high school, they're cleaning that 4,925 square feet per hour. So it's just taxing for the employees. Again, the industry standard is 38 to 4,000 square feet per hour cleaning. So we're well above that. And, again, as we evaluate the service they provide, and we look at where issues, concerns arise, it's these two buildings. So, working with Interstate, Ms. Green, Dr. Yannicone, we feel that this is a good solution to keep that level of service where it needs to be.
I'm on board. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And just, the secondary piece of the decision-making for this, in addition to the industry standard, was the fact that Mr. Thorne did go and try to identify whether other companies could provide us the service with the current staffing. And the response we got reinforced that we're understaffed. And so our hope is that the standard that we've set this summer, and I agree with Mr. Thorne, Interstate has done a great job of responding to our concerns this spring and summer and raising the standard of cleanliness in the buildings. We want to be able to maintain that over time. And obviously we have a significantly higher usage of the buildings returning this year with the end of the pandemic. So both community activities and sheer volume of students and adults in the buildings, now that we're back to full capacity, it's important for us to make sure that we can respond. So we appreciate that. We'll bring it out of the motion, out of committee for a board vote on the 18th.
Sounds good to me too.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, our next agenda item is assessment of some of the long-term capital projects that we're looking at. Believe it or not, we're actually planning next summer's capital projects. So it never stops. So we just wanted to bring up these two projects so we keep the board, current on where we are. So one is the middle school campus. So the evaluations of the campus, as well as, hey, can we do any renovations to the campus to enhance, the educational experience there? So what we're going to do is we're talking to staff, we're looking at the programs, we're looking at the existing site. If we were to do a renovation, a build out of some kind, is there enough room on the site as well? So there's some of the things we're looking at. The other would be the transportation facility. As you guys are aware, it's not capable of handling our current transportation needs. We do house half of our bus fleet in the middle school parking lot, which is just not efficient at all. So Ms. Green and I actually met with the township representatives a little bit ago, and we asked them if there was any available land that we could potentially purchase and build a new transportation facility. So we're looking at an ideal situation anywhere between 7 to 10 acres of land that we would need to house all our bus fleet and all the staff parking, the office area, garages to where, fix the buses and whatnot. So at the time we met with the township, there really wasn't anything available. So again, they would keep us surprised. Anything opens up, they certainly would let us know. But they're two of the long-term projects that we have on the radar that we're constantly looking at, evaluating. I think Dr. Yannicone, you had some conversation with the middle school administration.
Yes, we're going to begin to have conversations around programming to see what we might be interested in. Prior to doing that, Ms. Green and I are working on what are the parameters of our lending ability, our borrowing ability, as well as what are the parameters, and Mr. Thorne is working on this relative to our location adjacent to 309. What are the bounds by which we can actually do any construction work? And so it'll be a three-pronged approach. We'll be looking with the middle school team at programmatic requests and possibilities for expansion. We'll be looking at the facility itself with Mr. Thorne, and then we'll be looking at the finances with Ms. Green. It's our intention to begin with the financial conversation at our finance meeting next month. So I just provided an update to the board about upcoming committee meetings, and that finance meeting will be probably the first opportunity we'll have to discuss a little bit about potential borrowing opportunities and financial outlook for the board to consider both of these much larger projects. So we just wanted to make sure in property that you knew that we were taking a look at both options, and you'll see some smaller pieces of the middle school campus and the transportation facility in the next agenda item.
Okay. So any questions there at all? Okay, very good. Alrighty, so the next agenda item is our long-term capital projects. This is the 5-year projection that we keep current. It's a fluid document. It's constantly changing, but we put the needs of the district on a 5-year look to see where the funding is, what projects need to be done first versus something that potentially we could put off for a few years. So number one is a project list, but number two, I just wanted to point out, we discussed in prior property meetings, what would it look like to put a full-size athletic track on the existing middle school campus? So this is actually, it shows you a full-size track like we have in the stadium at the high school. So with the current conditions of the fields there, if you see all the small hashed lines right there, that's the existing hill. Thank you, Dr. Yannicone. Yep.
Sure.
So if you go to the next picture, that hill is right there. So the full-size track would go way into that soccer field. Yeah, that whole loop there would push all the way into the soccer field. And there's two different elevations there. That area that's being indicated there is actually a hill. It's probably 8 or 9 feet of a hill there. So we would push out way into there, and we would lose that soccer field that you see lined there. And it would encroach on the baseball field outfield as well. And the width of the existing track would actually push into that lower field there. Yep, it would push out in that area. So our recommendation is to keep the same size track, just redo the track itself with a rubberized surface and do other field renovations there. As you can see, the condition of the grass there on the fields, they're pretty beat up. They take the most township use throughout the year. There's always people out there. So one of the capital projects you're going to see on our list in a second there is to do middle school field renovations here. But the one, again, we were asked to look at putting in a full-size track, and we just don't think it's the right thing to do with the limited amount of field space. So the next item on the agenda is a bucket truck. Our bucket truck has gone beyond its useful life. That on the left-hand side is our existing bucket truck, and the frame of the truck has rotted out so bad that we couldn't get an inspection on it. a safety inspection on it. So it's currently non-usable. So we do use that quite often. We repair site lighting, trim trees, work on the exterior of buildings, things of that nature. So a new bucket truck similar to that is probably over $100,000. What you're seeing on the right is what we're researching now. It's a portable tow behind bucket truck. So it's a little more versatile for what we need it for. We don't need the full size truck, but we do need the lift. And we're looking at some cost saving measures there to get a tow behind unit. And you can see there's some of the pricing. So I would definitely recommend that we replace our bucket truck with the lift there. So that's just an example of two things that are on the capital projects list.
Mr.
Mr.
Thorne,
Thorne,
I
can I?
think-
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Needleman. I just wanted to point out one thing that Mr. Thorne mentioned to me in our preparations, which I thought was important, and that is that these tow behind units that he's recommending in place of the actual full truck, you could bring those tow behind units inside a building as well. So if we needed something, for example, in the interior roof of the gym, or in the theater program, if we needed to be able to get a bucket truck up, or if we were decorating for a dance, for example, there'd be flexibility in these units at significant cost savings to the bucket truck itself. And I think, Mr. Thorne, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was part of your factor in recommending this change from a full truck to a tow behind.
Correct. You had a question, Mr. Needleman?
Yeah, just curious, what with the truck being stationed or out of commission, put out of commission, what happens now between now and the time that it's replaced? And I'm all for replacement, like right away. What happens if something needs to be replaced? Are district employees potentially unsafe if they have to climb up and try to trim something or replace a light?
We would absolutely not put anyone in an unsafe condition. Now, we would have to rent a unit. So these tow behinds are available. You can rent them. So, I mean, we use it constantly. I don't think every time we needed it to go out and rent it, I don't think that would be cost effective. So I think it's important that the district have its own piece of equipment.
Oh,
But
yeah.
we wouldn't put anybody up in the bucket truck at current conditions.
Okay. All right. Great. I'm all on board. We should do it today.
Okay, thank you.
So given the potential costs of these tow behind items, this would also be a board motion at a future meeting. As soon as Mr. Thorne has made a decision about a particular unit, we'll bring that forward to the board.
Correct.
Okay.
All righty, and then the last slide is the actual 5-year capital improvement list. So again, it's listed in the color-coded red for safety, the blue is priority needs, and then the secondary needs are listed there as well. So at the bottom, the green are energy efficient projects that we're currently doing right now. If everybody wants to just take a quick look at those, I'll explain anything in detail if anybody has any specific questions. One of the biggest number you'll see there that we want to do next summer in the 23-24 year, if you can see those columns are spread out through the years, is a large section of the high school roof. Unfortunately, our 20-year, 25-year warranties are up this year actually for the high school. We do have active leaks in the high school. In that area, it's section 4, the 39,000 square foot of roof. So we're recommending that we replace that section of roof this summer. If you look further down on the black, you'll see high school replace unwarranted roofs. Yeah, thank you. There's another additional 68,000 square feet that won't be under warranty in the coming years. So in the columns, you see there's 906,000 or so slated over the 4 years. So they're just placeholders. So in our 5-year look, we know, hey, that we're going to have to replace sections of roof at $1 million possibly per year. So that's the way that spreadsheet is laid out there. The numbers you see, the estimates, we took from the current, what we paid for the middle school roof, and currently the transportation roof is being repaired now. So it's roughly $45 a square foot to replace roofing. The high school section we're recommending to replace this year at 39,000 square feet is $2.2 million. Again, the additional years is another $3.6 million worth of roofing assets that we need to consider replacing. So, and I know, Ms. Lipinski, you always question the roofs. So
like,
yeah, we do
never don't have to be replacing roofs. It's amazing.
Right. So
I'm like, didn't we just do that one?
yeah. So the middle school complex is completely 100% under warranty. So we're good there for many years to come. Erdenheim, again, that's under warranty as well. Enfield, obviously. So the high school was the next big piece. When the roofs leak, they'll leak into classrooms. We got to move the classrooms, very disruptive. We do get them repaired, but it's time. We're trying to avoid complete catastrophic failure of large sections of roof. So unfortunately, this is just something that we need to do on all our campuses throughout the years. So that's a big piece. That's the biggest number if you look in the 22-23 year. Actually, the way it's laid out is the end of the school year this year is June, so that's 2023. But the roof won't actually start until after graduation, after school lets out. So that'll go actually into the 23-24 year. So that's why they're in the columns. You see them there.
Mr. Thorne and Ms. Green, it's just a quick question. Given current conditions and costs and all of that stuff, does it make sense to do more of the work that's anticipated later now in order to kind of lock in costs and potentially save money, or is it just too much of an unknown?
Yeah, we could. That's a huge amount of roof to do in the 10-week summer period. 39,000 square feet of roofing it's quite a bit of the roof, not all of it, obviously, but I don't think we want to bite off more than we can chew. I don't want to have the roofing going on while kids are in class. That's always our goal,
Okay.
not to disrupt any of the learning process. So, a lot of if you look at some of this, the middle school replacing the tile floors in the hallways, there's 3 main floors in the middle school. So to try and replace all 3 sections of flooring in one summer, it's a huge volume of work. Not many, you limit your pool of contractors that can do that volume of work in, again, that summer 10-week period. So that's why we're rolling these out. Just middle school is a good example because there's 3 floors. If we can get 1 floor completed, as well as clean the classrooms, paint the classrooms, all the other things we have to get done, because you have to coordinate those contractors all in the same space. So, that's why we do separate these things out in year projects. I hope I answered your question there. I would love to. Love to get everything done.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd love to get it all done in 1 year, but it's just too much work.
In addition to just the pacing,
Makes
I think
sense.
Ms. Green and I have also talked about, if you look at that last column, so you can see there the GF is general fund and CR is capital reserve. And so what we're trying to do there is plan out how to be mindful of the impact on the overall budget as we move over the next 5 years. And you can see there's another large item sort of looming out there in 27, 28. So we have 2 turf fields that have an average lifespan of 8 to 10 years. And while we are working really hard to be responsible about access and make sure, you can see in the 4th line there that turf fields crumb rubber replenishing. Those kinds of actions extend the life of the turf, we hope, but still, one turf went in, the stadium went in 2017, and the Nixon field went in 2018. So even if we go to the outside edge of 10 years, we're still looking at some significant costs for replacement of those turf fields. And so, and Ms. Green, I don't know if you want to comment on this any further, but the conversations that we've had are trying to make sure that we don't drain the capital reserve that's been built up, and that we continue to be able to add to that every year to be able to help afford these larger projects, and then not really, slam the general fund.
Correct. We are with all the projects coming up in the long-term outlook that we're looking at, as Dr. Yannicone mentioned, we're reviewing our current debt structure. Want to look at the different area resources of funds that we have available within the district to make sure that we plan this out. You'll see that the other pieces of the roof is spread out over 4 years. We had the discussion yesterday. Obviously, if leaks happen or there's areas that are deemed that need to be addressed, those numbers might change. We just smoothed it out over the 4 years. So it could be in 1 year, there's less, 1 year more. But that's the anticipation piece. And we just wanted you to get this outlook, especially with the long-term projects that we are considering and taking a look at within the district, just to put this all together financially in a package. So there will be more discussion about where funding is coming from, and obviously with what pricing comes in, because that is an unknown right now. We can guesstimate right now. I think Mr. Thorne did a good job of putting some inflation numbers in the roofing per square foot that we just got with the middle school roofing. So I think that that number is a really good number. But again, we won't know until we get bids in and see where the numbers land.
Okay, so another, I would like to bring up the middle school in the blue there, the middle school field and track replacement, field renovations, track replacement. Yeah. If you notice there, it's to be determined. We really don't have a scope of work defined. We know what we need there, again, to resurface the track with a rubberized surface. And new sod, irrigation, things of that nature. But if we were to move ahead with that project, we really need to bring our engineer on board to start to develop specifications. So to identify the scope of work with everyone involved in middle school administration, at that point, develop specs and then put it out for public bid. So again, that's a lengthy process. So we are asking for permission to bring in the professional services for that specific middle school field and track renovation. Also, if you look at the Erdenheim, the accessible ramp in the rear of the school, currently there's a set of steps in the back. A specific concern is when we have fire drills, that all the students in the back section of the building have to go up those steps to assemble in the upper cafeteria parking lot. So there's no accessibility there for anyone in a wheelchair and special needs people that would have to actually use a ramp. So we're looking at putting some type of ramp assembly there to safely bring staff and students from the lower level to the upper level. So again, that would be to define the scope of work, develop specifications so we can put the project out to bid. So that's another one that we're looking for permission to start bringing in professional services. So I think that's, and then the high school roof section 4, again, that would be that we would need to develop the specs to put it out to bid. So again, all the projects listed there, if you know, obviously it's the first time you're looking at it, if you wanted to really take a good look, ask some questions. But that's basically where we're at in a 5-year projection. Again, allocating the dollars so Ms. Green can figure out you know, how we're going to pay for these things. It is a fluid document. Again, if we do have some roof failures right away that need emergency work, obviously they're going to you know, move to the forefront. But we're just trying to identify our needs of the district, put it into a document, and put dollars to it, and see which year we're going to do these projects.
So I just want to make sure you can see there are a number of TBDs, and one of them we've talked about, and we will come back, you know, with recommendations. But on the transportation facility, we have exterior and interior suggested repairs that would happen over multiple years. The X's are showing Mr. Thorne and Ms. Green's planning that would happen over multiple years. And then at the bottom, you have a new facility, because that would be a different funding source and obviously a much longer range project. So we're trying to do that in parallel tracks, plan for if we have to maintain the current site, what's needed, as well as what would happen if we had a new site. You also see the middle school additions and renovations as a TBD with no X's there, because again, that would be something that would happen longer term. So there's 2 separate middle school items. One is the additions and renovations that would impact programming. The other is the field renovations and track replacement that we are looking for a go-ahead from the board so that we could identify the specific costs for rubberizing the track in its existing location and providing field renovation as recommended. So we don't know whether that will be sod or grass or some other way of fixing the surfaces, which have gotten to be very hard and brown. So if I go back to this, you can see here, Mr. Thorne mentioned the current condition of our fields, in particular, this multi-purpose field here, and this multi-purpose field here, and then the field inside the track. So one of the things Mr. Thorne is looking for, and we're looking for, is a go-ahead to bring in consultants who can give us a recommendation for what to do to fix these fields in their existing configuration. Are there any questions about that, or are you comfortable with that plan?
Yeah, I am.
Thank you.
Okay, terrific.
Yes.
And then, thanks, Mr.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I could see you nodding, but also trying to unmute. So I got it. And then the other was Mr. Thorne would like to go ahead to be able to do the same with a consultant for that accessible ramp installation at the back of Erdenheim. It would be between the 2 playgrounds. Essentially, if you're looking at the upper and lower playgrounds, there's a hill there that we're looking to see if we could provide some sort of accessible ramp that would be accessibility for the students on both playgrounds, as well as evacuation in the event of emergency.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're okay with that as well?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think right now, those are the only other go-ahead authorizations that we were looking for. Mr. Thorne, am I missing anything?
No, the one that I did want to mention, the high school, the aquatic program came to us the other day. We met with Dr. Rittenhouse and the pool supervisors, Joe Ferraro, our athletic director. When they have meets, it's really loud. It's incredibly loud. The sound system just gets drowned out from all the noise and the sound bouncing off the walls. So I'm going to start looking into some type of soundproofing in there. It's a sound deadening system. You've probably seen it, the panels that hang from the ceiling or the fabric panels on the wall it absorbs the sound. But since it's a pool environment, it's unique. We can't just use a fabric cloth there. So there's a potential that we may bring in a professional to give us a scope of work, what we need to look for there. And we can further update you at further property committee meetings with that one. But we're just really starting to look at that. But that could be, again, it's a to be determined. We're not sure what the cost of something like that would be. So a little more research is needed there before we actually come to you guys and ask permission to move forward.
Are there any questions or concerns around any of the items on this list or the way in which they've been prioritized?
No, I think this is great, actually. It's easy to see. I think the priorities make sense and it's easy to follow.
Yeah. And it's very comprehensive for everything that we keep, continuously talk about and plan for. So I think it's good.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and the numbers that are provided at the bottoms of the columns is what the year looks like, how much we would be, needed to be funded. And the last number you see there, that 9 million, is the total of those years.
Ms. Green is working hard to make sure that we can make this work between the general fund and capital reserve.
Absolutely.
Okay. So this was our last agenda item. Unless the board has any other topics that you want to make sure that we have on our radar, this is where our energies are with regard to property for the next 5 years. It's really 5.5 years because we're in 22, 23, but we wanted you to see how that planning is going. See if there's any other questions or concerns around anything related to the facilities that you'd like us to have on our radar that you don't see here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good.
Okay. So I don't think we have any community members in the room. I'm just going to double check with Mr. Wexler. I don't believe we have anybody here.
That is correct, Dr. Yannicone.
Okay, I'm going to stop share.
I'm so sorry. I've got to run. I'm sorry.
It's
Judge
no
Jones
problem. I was just going to
waited to
say,
yell at me.
are you okay with us adjourning the meeting at this point?
Yes.
I have a 9 o'clock as well, so I can take a quick break and do my 9 o'clock.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. We'll see you on the 8th.
Thank you all. All right. Take
Thanks,
care.
everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a
Bye.
good evening.